Your modern concept of justice is barely 300 years old, and by the end of this video, you'll discover the chilling reality of what happened to criminals. For thousands of years before that, punishment so extreme, they redefined what it meant to suffer and reveal a shocking truth about human nature that still echoes in our world today. For most of human history, there were no towering penitentiaries, no rehabilitation programs, no endless appeals. Justice was swift, often public, and almost always terrifying. When early nomadic tribes needed to deal with a transgressor, someone who stole, lied, or endangered the group, they didn't have a justice system as we know it. Their primary weapon was ostracism. Imagine being cast out from your small, isolated community into a wilderness teeming with dangers. It wasn't just a punishment. It was often a death sentence. But as societies grew, as cities swelled and hierarchies solidified, simply banishing someone wasn't enough. The stakes were higher, the population's denser, and the need for control became paramount. The concept of an eye for an eye didn't just emerge. It exploded into systems of retribution that would make your stomach churn. Take ancient Mesopotamia, for example. Over 3,700 years ago, the Code of Hammurabi, etched into stone, laid out a meticulously brutal system. If you broke a free man's bone, yours would be broken. If you knocked out his tooth, yours went too. Simple, right? But it escalated quickly. If a builder constructed a house that collapsed and killed the owner, that builder was executed. If it killed the owner's son, the builder's son was executed. This wasn't just about vengeance. It was about establishing an iron-fisted societal order, where every transgression had a mirror, often lethal, consequence. But what about crimes that didn't have a direct eye for an eye equivalent? Stealing from a temple, for instance, or aiding a runaway slave? The punishments were equally severe, often involving drowning or impalement. The sheer public spectacle of these executions served a dual purpose: to terrorize potential lawbreakers and to assert the absolute power of the ruling class. Yet, even Hammurabi's precise, albeit brutal, code seems almost predictable compared to the creative cruelty that some cultures would devise. For offenses as simple as mocking a god, or even just existing as a perceived threat, ancient Egypt, with its grand pharaohs and divine order, reserved its most horrific punishments for those who dared to defy the gods or the state. Tomb robbers, for example, weren't just put to death. They were often impaled, left to rot as a stark warning beneath the desert sun. Treason? That could earn you a punishment so severe. It wasn't just about ending your life, but symbolically disgracing your existence. Having your name struck from every monument, denying you passage to the afterlife. Imagine a punishment that didn't just kill your body, but threatened your soul's eternal journey. The Persians, on the other hand, truly innovated in the art of slow, agonizing torment. Their methods were designed not just to kill, but to prolong suffering and inflict maximum psychological horror. One common punishment for severe crimes, especially rebellion, involved flaying alive, the skin removed, the victim left exposed to the elements until death finally came. A truly gruesome spectacle intended to break the spirit of any dissent. But it's one specific Persian method that truly defines a slow, agonizing descent into madness. A punishment designed not just to kill, but to erase every shred of humanity, every last vestige of dignity, and it makes flaying seem like a quick end. We'll get to that chilling ingenuity later. But first, let's journey further west. The Greeks, often celebrated for their philosophy and democracy, had their own dark corners of justice. While they favored ostracism and exile for political dissidents, sending them away for 10 years, a life-altering punishment, they also utilized brutal physical methods for slaves and non-citizens. The legendary brazen bull, a bronze effigy of a bull, where victims were locked inside and roasted alive, amplifying their screams to sound like a bull's bellow, might be more myth than reality, but its very existence in Greek thought speaks volumes about the capacity for cruelty. Then came the Romans. For them, punishment was often theater. The ultimate symbol of Roman dominance and cruel justice was crucifixion. It wasn't just execution, it was a public spectacle of humiliation, designed to break the will, not just the body. Stripped naked, nailed to a cross, left to die a slow, agonizing death from asphyxiation or exhaustion, often taking days. And for military failures, they had decimation, where 1 in 10 soldiers of a disgraced legion would be arbitrarily selected and clubbed to death by their own comrades. Imagine the psychological terror, the breakdown of loyalty, the sheer randomness of fate. Think our justice system is about rehabilitation. Ancient Rome had a very different idea, where punishment wasn't about redemption, but about deterrence and the assertion of absolute power. But even these spectacles pale in comparison to what some civilizations considered a just and appropriate end for those who violated the deepest taboos, pushing the boundaries of what a human could endure. Across the world, in ancient China, the concept of slow and drawn-out suffering reached its zenith with linkage, often translated as death by 1,000 cuts. This wasn't just a method of execution, it was a methodical, ritualistic process designed to inflict maximum pain and dishonor over hours, sometimes even days. Small pieces of flesh were systematically removed from the body, beginning with non-fatal cuts, prolonging the agony while the victim remained conscious. The aim was not just death, but the absolute annihilation of the body, preventing the victim from ever having a whole spirit in the afterlife. It was a complete psychological and physical undoing. During the European Middle Ages, the inventiveness of human cruelty knew few bounds. The srac, designed to dislocate joints, stretching the body to its limits. The Iron Maiden, a sarcophagus-like device lined with spikes, slowly closing in. While the Iron Maiden is likely a later invention or exaggeration, the methods of medieval justice were undeniably brutal, drawing and quartering for treason, where the victim was dragged, disemboweled, beheaded, and then torn into 4 pieces, or burning at the stake for heresy and witchcraft, a horrific public spectacle intended to purify the soul through fire and serve as a dire warning. But among all these horrors, designed to inflict unimaginable pain and terror, there stands one method, perfected by the Persians, which epitomizes not just brutality, but a truly evil ingenuity in prolonged torment. It's a punishment designed to turn the victim's own body into their personal hell, one most people have never even heard of. This is Scaphism, sometimes called the boats. Imagine this. The condemned is placed between 2 boats, or hollowed-out tree trunks, fitted together so only their head, hands, and feet protrude. They are then force-fed milk and honey, to the point of severe diarrhea and vomiting. More honey is smeared on their exposed parts, attracting insects. Left floating in stagnant water, sometimes for weeks, the victim would be eaten alive by insects and vermin drawn to the honey and their own excrement. The forced feeding would continue daily, ensuring they didn't succumb too quickly to dehydration or starvation. Death would eventually come from exposure, septic shock from gangrene and insect bites, and the sheer, unending psychological torture. It was a punishment that took human life apart, piece by excruciating piece, not through sharp cuts or blunt force, but through a slow, living decay. It wasn't just about killing. It was about the complete and utter dehumanization, the deliberate and prolonged destruction of mind, body, and spirit. So, why would humans devise such unimaginable cruelty? Was it pure sadism or something deeper? For ancient societies, these brutal methods were often practical solutions. With no elaborate prison systems, public execution served as both a warning and a final, undeniable judgment. It was a way to appease angry gods, maintain social order in unstable times, and demonstrate the absolute power of rulers or communal norms. The spectacle itself was part of the punishment, ensuring the message was indelible. Looking back at these brutal methods, designed to instill terror and maintain order, it forces us to ask, have we truly evolved beyond the need for such stark deterrence? Or does the modern world, with all its complexities, simply find new, perhaps more subtle, ways to exact its own forms of unbelievable justice? Let me know in the comments. If you lived in an ancient world, facing a choice between exile or one of these brutal punishments for a minor offense,